Hi everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be looking at eclipses. So I'm going to call this video Foundation 1.5. This should be the last part or the third last part of the foundation videos. So what I'm going to be looking at, the checklist today is we're only going to be looking for exact transits. The only thing that we need to look for are exact transits of these eclipses on the directional places or the radix places of the general significant factors. So the moon's place, the sun's place, the ascendant's place or house 1, and then the 10th house or meridian uh, or the midheaven, transits on their places, whether it be the directional places or the radix places. So whenever the eclipses transit exactly on the places or the position of these general significant factors in their radix or in their progressed position, we should be able to tell how the eclipses are going to affect the market. And yeah, so we're only looking for exact transits. So another thing that we need to look at is the full moon. So whenever there's a full moon and it so happens to be exactly aligned with the sun. So in the full moon, what we are looking at is that the full moon is the one that is likely to cause a lunar oasis eclipse, right? So whenever there's a full moon, it's likely that we might expect a lunar eclipse or not. However, what we need to always remember is that the moon, in this case, since it's eclipse, the moon itself is the one that's going to be able to tell us whether it's going to cause a buy or a sell in the market. And then um, I'm going to give an example of March 12, 1914. This is the example that Cefario gives in Akana and stock market, stock and Shaki. For the reason that I haven't found any transit on any lunar eclipse transit on any of the generating factors of gold chart, right? So I'm going to give that for the New York Stock Exchange as an example. However, if we move on to 2, we have the new moon. So the new moon is likely to be one when we can experience a solar eclipse, right? So in this case, the solar eclipse, or by its name, right, the sun is in control, and it's a sun that's going to give power to the ruler of the sign it is in at that point to cause market or sell in the market, right? So a lunar eclipse happens when the sun happens to be at the exact conjunction or in conjunction with the new moon. So whenever the new moon happens and the sun is exactly on the position of the new moon, right, a solar eclipse happens, right? So the full moon, what I forgot to say is that whenever the full moon happens and the sun happens to be exactly opposite the position of the full moon, then we have a lunar eclipse, right? So I'm going to give an example from of the solar eclipse from the God chart, and we had a solar eclipse exactly uh, transit on the generating factors position on April 8th, 2005. Yeah, so I'm going to give that as an example in the God chart, and I'm sure what exactly happened then. And then the last part is that the timing for these. So these dates that we've given, on those particular dates, we just expect that the new moon or full moon effect should only happen on that particular day when the new moon or full moon happen. However, the eclipse, both for the solar or the lunar eclipse, we expect that the effect should be felt only according to our checklist 3 when the transit of a malefic when there's a transit of the malefic planet, whether it's Saturn or Mars, on the place that is conjunction or opposite that of the transit of the eclipse on the radix position of the, or the progress position of the axis of the general significant factors. So that will provide the timing. So let's go into it. So I want to draw up the chart for the London Stock Exchange. So you can always just go back to video foundation 1.1 or 1.0 and draw up the chart for the London Stock Exchange, and you should be able to see that Virgo 20 was the progressed position of the MC in the year 1914, right? So I'm just going to draw up and keep the video short. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to chart info, and then I'll say chart, right? And then I'll place in our date here, which is March 12. Okay, so March 12th, 1914. I'll start with midnight. So I'm going to, it's London. Remember, we're looking at the transit of the lunar eclipse on the general significant factors position of the London Stock Exchange. So we're going to put London. So in London, that we're looking at the stock exchange, the London Stock Exchange. So I'm going to, that's the reason why I'm putting London. So once I apply, I can say okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to chart and then click aspect list, and then I should be able to see that there's a full moon. And the full moon, we already know that when there's a full moon, it will likely to have a lunar eclipse, right? Full moon, when the moon is at its full, we are likely to have a lunar eclipse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to animate, and I'm going to go to 1 hour, and then I'll click back to the V to check to the position of the moon. At this point, it's at Virgo 18 degrees, so I'm going to move it to Virgo 20. Okay, so Virgo 20, I'll have to adjust the rate. So I'm going to go to exactly Virgo 20, and then if I click the V and look at the aspect list, and you should be able to see that there was a full moon and then there was a partial lunar eclipse, right? So we simply are able to tell that the transit or the eclipse happened exactly on the progressed position of the MC of the London Stock Exchange, right, at Virgo 20. So what exactly is going to be the effect? Remember that lunar, with the word lunar, we know that the moon is in control, right? So the moon is in control. So we'll look at the aspects of the moon, right? So already know that, okay, here with the moon opposite the sun, and of course it has a negative orbit. The other one is that of opposite with Virgo, and then the other one should be, yeah, the moon sextile Neptune here with a -5 degrees, and of course that's the only thing. So we can see that the one that's going to affect the London Stock Exchange was going to be the sun opposite the moon, right, with a negative orbit of 42 minutes. So we should see that it was bad. And yeah, so we should have expected that the stock exchange, the London Stock Exchange, for March 12, 1914 should have dropped, right? Should have dropped. But when does the lunar eclipse really begin to show its effects, right? So what we are going to do is go back to the zodiac chart, and then I'll make sure that I point out that the transit is happening at Virgo 20, right? Exactly. So I'm expecting that the Mars or Saturn is very far from Virgo, right? Um, and the opposite of Virgo is where is Virgo? Here. Okay, Virgo is here. So the opposite of Virgo is likely to be Pisces, right? Pisces. So we can already see that Saturn has already passed that position, so the only thing that it's likely to do, it's supposed to be transiting here, but it's too far. And we already have Mars in this case, which is the nearest to transiting the Virgo position, and it's a malefic planet. So what I'm going to do is I'll push or animate the chart by jumping it on the rate of a day, and then mark the position of Mars, and it should go to Virgo 20. So I'll keep moving it. So okay, in April we're in Cancer. Okay, we're in Libra. Where's Mars? Okay, Mars is here. Then we're going to Virgo. So Libra, okay, we're in Virgo. Mars is in Virgo. So Mars should go to Virgo 20 exactly. Okay, so Virgo 20 is approximately reached on the 29th, right? So on the 29th, right? On the 29th of July 1914, we should have seen that Mars, a malefic planet, did transition the point of the eclipse, right, of Virgo 20. So this was going to be the timing when the effect of the lunar eclipse was going to be felt. Remember, the effect was bad, so we don't really have to consider the aspects of the moon or the transit of the moon on the eclipse, right? So what we're just saying is that the moon opposite sun, which was going to cause a sell on the stock, London stock market in the year 1914 on March 12th, that aspect was going to be the cause the same drop based on the eclipse, which was going to be timed on July 29th. So in short, the effect of the eclipse was going to be felt starting when the malefic planet was going to transition that place of the eclipse. So when Mars transited Virgo 20 on July 29th, we should have seen that the effect of the lunar eclipse was going to be starting to be felt. So quite right, he goes on to say that there's war, yeah. However, my concern is that in the market, the effect was going to be a sell, right? Simply because the moon made an opposite aspect with the sun, right? On March 12th, 1914, when this lunar eclipse was happened, right, and transitioned the Virgo 20 position, right? So one other thing that I'll need to point out is that if we go back to the aspects, so this is half moon, right? So I can notice that, look, there's always between new, right, and full moon, there's always a middle point, which is half, right? There's always a half moon. So what we're looking at was the full moon, right? The full moon. It's the same thing when we're going back this way or we're going this way. There's always that half point. So whatever the case, since we were looking at an eclipse of a lunar eclipse, it means that it was happening at the full. The best time to actually time this, once we find a transit like this, but the best time to enter the market is after it passes the halfway point, or just after the halfway point is done from the full moon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate by an hour and then push it up back. Okay, the best would be probably a day. So if I move it by a day, I should be able to see, okay, we've got a full moon, right? So whatever the case, the halfway point should have been filled. should have ended, yeah, on the 30th, right? So we are literally seeing that, from what I was saying, the best timing is if we're looking for the lunar, right? For the lunar, which is the full moon, right? There's a halfway point. So if we're moving from, we're coming from the from the full moon, it's always best to, once we find the transit, that the timing should be somewhere in the halfway point, past halfway point in the new moon phase, right? And if we are looking at the solar eclipse, which is literally a new moon, we're expecting that the best timing should be halfway point into the full moon phase cycle, right? So since this halfway point, or the 29th of July, the transit was happening in the new moon phase, we should have expected that there should have been immediate proper entry for us to sell the market on the 28th of July 1914, and then probably hold for the next 4 years. Yeah, for the next 4 years. However, there are different views on the effects of on the timing of the eclipses. However, what we need to just always remember is that the effect happens most preferably when the transit of the malefic planets are opposite or on conjunction to the eclipse transit. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to go to the next example, right? This is coming from the God chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to set the chart, and I'm going to go to wait, this is happening in April 8th. So April 8th, 2005. I'll set it at midnight, and I'm looking at the New York, since we're looking at the God chart, New York, right? Uh, okay. So once I set that, I click OK. Of course, 1 hour. So if I move it, we have a new moon, right? The new moon simply means that we're likely to have a solar eclipse, right? The solar eclipse simply means that the sun is gets into exact conjunction with the new moon, right? So I'm going to keep moving it. Okay, now we have the solar eclipse, right? So if I go to the position of the moon, we find that it's at Iris 18 degrees 47. So it's supposed to be Iris 18 degrees and 26 minutes. So I'm going to reduce this to 26. Okay, 26. Okay, to 26. Yeah. So the exact position was, so the exact radix position of the ascendant was Aries 18 degrees 26 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go back to my to the aspect, and we find that the new moon actually was together with the total solar eclipse, right? Which is very perfect. It means that our solar eclipse exactly transited the ascendant radix position of Iris degrees 18 degrees, sorry, and 26 minutes. So what I'm simply saying is that since this is a solar eclipse, we're expecting that the sun should be in control, and it being in control, it will give, this is the only time it does that. And the other time it does that is if it transits its own radix or progressed position. These three times are the only times it does give power to another planet, to rule. So what I'm simply saying is that since the sun is in Aries, right? Aries is ruled by Mars. So what I'm simply saying is that we're not going to be looking at the aspects of the moon, right? Since it's a solar eclipse. And we're not going to be looking at the aspects of the sun. The sun itself is one that's going to give power to the ruler of this house it's in, which is Aries. So Mars is the one that is going to rule, right? This solar eclipse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the aspects of Mars. So we have Mars, only negative orbit type of aspects are the ones I'm going to be looking for. So we have Mars, semi-sextile Uranus with a negative orbit of 4 degrees. Okay, okay. So it seems like it's the only one, right? Seems like it's the only one. It's the only one that we have, which is negative. So what we're simply saying is that on April 8th, 2005, the gold market was going to sell, or was going to buy, sorry, was going to buy because semi-sextile is 30 degrees. Is 30 degrees, right? Which is good. So we're going to see a buy in the gold market because Mars was having a good aspect with Uranus, right? And it was negative orbit of 4 degrees, which is within our allowance. So we're going to see a good buy, right? So so that is April 8th, right? Just for that day, we expected that the market was going to buy. So if you check uh, April, right? So this is April 8th, 2005, and we should have seen a very good buy here. So this is a buy. And of course, the buy starts exactly at the time when the new moon starts. So likely when the new moon started, that's the time we need to have bought, right? And yeah, so when do we enter the buy position for the solar eclipse, right? So the solar eclipse effect was going to start when either Saturn or Mars transits Iris 18 degrees 26 minutes, right? So what I'm simply saying is that here is the transit, here is the place that it needs to transit, and we've got Mars here, right? Saturn is already here, but Saturn is not likely to transit the opposite here, the opposite in Libra on time. So we are likely to see that Mars is going to transit this exact location earlier. So we're going to go with Mars. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to jump and take Mars to Aries, right? To Aries. Okay, it's in pieces now. In pieces. We're now in Aries. Yeah, so Mars is in Aries. We're looking at 18 degrees Aries. Okay, 18 degrees. So I'm going to take it to 26 minutes, right? So okay, so right on time. So Aries 18 degrees 26 minutes. So it simply tells us that on Saturday, July 9th, 2005, we should have seen the effect of the solar eclipse, which was going to cause a buy in the gold market, right? Uh, right. However, remember that we need to check whether it's halfway into the new moon phase or into the full moon phase. Remember that solar eclipse simply means that we are in the new moon, right? So we want it to be in the other cycle in the full moon. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to aspects and then try to jump it within days. So halfway, right? So let me just go. Okay, so right. So we see that the next after the halfway, we see that it's in the full moon phase, right? And remember that our solar eclipse is new moon, so it simply means that we're in the right cycle. So immediately after we jump the halfway point, or when the halfway point is done, we should be able to buy. So the halfway point starts here, right? So okay, so when does the halfway point end? Okay, it ends on the 15th, right? On a Friday, on the 15th of July. 15th of July on a Friday 2005, and therefore that would be the best time for us to buy the gold chart and to actually uh, trade the effects of this solar eclipse. So I'll go back to my chart. So this is the buy we had, right, for the new moon, right? So now the eclipse was going to be felt in July, right? Of course, July 8th, that's when July 8th, that's when we actually had so it should have been on July 8th when we actually had the transit of Mars on the position of the solar eclipse, right? However, what we say is that the best timing is always uh, halfway point into the full moon, right? So let me write that. Let me write that. Let me write that. So I'll simply say that the best timing is halfway point into the full moon cycle, or full moon phase rather, phase, right? So the best timing is in the halfway point into the new moon, right? So so having mentioned that, so we notice that the halfway point into the full moon for this solar eclipse happened on July 15th, right? And July 15th happens to be the best, to actually be the law, uh, to have created the law of that year, right? So we should have seen it as creating the law for that year. Oh, that was the lowest the market went for that year, and then okay, that was the lowest the market went in that month, and we should have seen a very substantial buy. So remember, other authors would say that the effects of the luminaries, or the eclipses, lasts for about 4 years. So what we're simply saying is that from the time it's timed, when it's supposed to start on, right? When it's supposed to start on July 15th, we are supposed to have probably expected that the buy was going to continue for the next 4 years. So in short, from 2005 to 2019, somewhere here, to 2019, somewhere here. So to somewhere here. So this was going to be approximately how long it was going to last. So from this year, 2005 to 2009, approximately this whole move was going to be was going to be the effect of the solar eclipse, right? So having mentioned that, always remember that the timings, or when the effects of the eclipses happen, is only when the transit of the malefic planets Saturn or Mars transits either the opposite position of that transit, eclipse transit, or conjunction with that eclipse transit. That's the time when the new moon starts, and then it's likely to last for next 4 years. And then once you remember that, always remember that look to trade halfway into one phase. So if the solar eclipse, we're looking to trade halfway into the full moon phase, and then if we're looking at the lunar eclipse, we're looking to trade halfway into the new moon, right, phase. So these are a bit of tips that you should be able to catch and then probably trade with. So having said that, this concludes everything that we need to know about eclipses and how they affect the market. However, what you need to do is also perhaps read more about the timings, because there are so many ways. Ptolemy and many others have suggested different ways of timing the effect of them of the eclipses. However, what is generally accepted is that when the transits of the malefic planets are made on the in conjunction to that solar eclipse or lunar eclipse position, or their opposites, that's when we're supposed to look to assess to see the effects, and then they should last for about 4 years. So always remember, we're only looking for exact transits. We're not looking for anything that is less than exact transits. Yeah, so there are other times when it was almost exactly, but it's not. So always look for exact transits. And then this is exactly how you're supposed to be able to tell what's going to happen in the market when the eclipse happens. So having said this, it's goodbye for now, and see you in the next video.